Good morning, students. Hope you all are well. So, today we will discuss the next chapter of human anatomy and physiology, that is the excretory system. So, all of you know what is meant by excretion. So, it is actually the removal of the waste products. It can be some chemical waste products, especially the nitrogenous waste, or it can be some other waste products. So, it is the removal of different type of waste product from our body. So, it is known as the excretion. So, for this excretion, we have specialized organs, and these organs are combined and form this excretory system, and these organs are help to the formation and the elimination of urine, which is the main excretory product of our body. So now different substances are there which we have to eliminate from our body. So first is the carbon dioxide and water. So carbon dioxide means removal of carbon dioxide, that is actually the part of our respiratory system which is during respiration we have to remove, we have to take carbon oxygen, and we have to remove the carbon dioxide, and it is generally eliminated through lungs. And extra water actually two part, one is in the form of the urine, and another some extra water that is in the form of sweat. So it will so through some specialized sweat glands it will secrete from our skin. Next, nitrogenous waste product. So nitrogenous waste products are very toxic for our body if they will accumulate in our body, like urea, uric acid, ammonia. So these are mainly the product of the proteins, okay. And any extra amino acid, it cannot be stored in the body. Means the simplest form of protein, that is the amino acid. So extra amino acid we cannot store in our body. So when there is the breakdown of this amino acid, they produce glucose and urea. So that urea has to be excreted out from our body, or else it will cause some disease in our body. So urea is highly poisonous. If it allowed to accumulate in the blood at a certain level, it causes death, okay. So urea is excreted through our kidneys, which is the main excretory organ of our body. Some salts, some common salt, that is NaCl, and some other excess water soluble vitamins like B and C, it is also need to be eliminated. And water which is taken with food and with beverages with large quantities, the excess water is removed, which is also means useful purpose for dissolving the harmful substances or some harmful materials and to carry out them. And last is the bile pigment, which contains the one yellow color pigment which is known as bilirubin, okay. So bile pigments, these are the breakdown products of hemoglobin of dead RBC, okay. So in liver cells, it extract it from the circulation and secrete it into the bile juice, okay. Means from the dead RBC cells and from the hemoglobin, they actually form this pigment, that is bilirubin, and which is secreted into the bile juice to pour it into the duodenum, and these pigments are modified into the intestine, and this is actually why the color of the feces is like that yellowish brown color. Okay, now the excretory organs. So the main chief organ, that is kidneys, so these are the primary excretory products through which we can remove our nitrogenous waste. Next excretory organ, that is our skin. So in our skin, a plenty number of sweat glands are there, and through the sweat gland excess water and some kind of salts like means the common salt sodium chloride, so and along with some urea and lactic acid, they can be eliminated, okay. Next is the lungs. Through the lungs, carbon dioxide can eliminate it. And liver actually detoxifies the ammonia by converting it into urea, okay. Now urea is excreted through the urine, okay. Now we'll study about the kidneys and the structure of the kidneys, okay. So this diagram, figure number 9.1, human urinary system. This you have to practice not for this diagram but for the diagram question. Okay, so the kidneys you can see here, it is a 2 bean shaped structure, almost 10 centimeter long and 6 centimeter wide. Where they are located, they are actually located on the two sides of the backbone and protected by the last two ribs. Okay, so the right side kidney is slightly lower than the left one. Right side kidney is slightly lower than the left one. Okay, now you can see a tube like structure is connected with the kidney and with this urinary bladder. So this is a tube that is called the ureter, which is actually arises at the notch in the medium surface of each kidney, and it connects with the urinary bladder. Okay, so this portion is hilum. You can see in this diagram this some broad white structure which is just arise from the inner part of the kidney, that is the hilum. Okay, and after that which is connected with the urinary bladder. Here you can see these two cord like structure, they are connected with the urinary bladder. Okay, and this lower part of this hilum is known as pelvis. Here also you can see it is known as pelvis, and the urine produced in the kidney, they constantly flows through the ureter and collects into the urinary bladder. Here you can see urinary bladder. So the urine which is produced in the kidney, they can transferred from the ureter into the urinary bladder. Okay, and the opening of the ureter is somewhat projecting and it acts like a valve to prevent the backflow of the urine when the bladder contracts. Because when there is means during the time of urination, that one kind of muscle is there, so that muscles will contract and so that the urine will release from our body. That is the sphincter muscle. So the sphincters actually guards the opening of the bladder, means the urinary bladder, into the urethra, and it relaxes only at the time of urination. Okay. Now is the internal structure of the kidney. Okay, this figure number 9.2. These are actually the internal structure of the kidney. So we can divide kidney into two main parts, that is the outer dark part which is known as the cortex, and the inner lighter part which is known as the medulla. Okay, so here you can see the outer layer, that is the cortex, and the inner layer where this pyramid shaped structures are there, all this arteries and veins are present. These are actually the in the medullary portions. Okay, now so the medulla is composed of finely some striped structure. Here you can see some thread like structures is there, and triangle like structures. So these are the conical pyramids, and in the apex of the pyramid, in each apex of the pyramid you can see the papilla. Okay, some papilla which projects into the pelvis of the kidney. Here in this diagram you can see these are the papilla. This apex is the end portion of this pyramid which is known as the papilla. Okay, and the projections of cortical tissue extend in between the adjacent renal pyramid to form the renal columns. And the kidney is composed of enormous number of uriniferous tubules or the nephrons, which is the main unit of kidney. Okay, now the structure of kidney tubule, means now we will study this portion, means what is present in between of this papillae and each renal pyramid. So actually in that every pyramid like structure which is present there, that is actually the nephron, okay, or kidney tubules or the uriniferous tubules. This figure 9.3, this figure you have to practice for the diagram question and also for the diagram also. Okay, Now the structure of kidney tubule. So we can divide kidney tubules into different parts. First is the Bowman's capsule. So which one will be the Bowman's capsule? This cup-like structure you can see here. You can see here this cup-like structure. Okay, this is the Bowman's capsule, cup shape structure, and this reddish portion, where the means capillaries are there, that is actually the glomerulus. So it is the main and the first part of this kidney tubule. Okay, so Bowman's capsule, it is a thin walled cup like structure, and something like a hollow ball that press deep on one side, because you can see in the diagram the middle portion is quite deeper. So its hollow internal space continues into the tubule and the outer cavity of the cup that has a means not like blood capillaries, which is known as the glomerulus. Okay, you can see here in this cup shaped structure a lot of knot like structures or the capillaries are there. These are actually the glomerulus. Okay, so this glomerulus and Bowman's capsule, these are attached together, and these help in the ultrafiltration process. Okay, so the Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus together, they are known as Malpighian corpuscle or renal capsule. So the Bowman's capsule and this capillaries, not like structure, that means the Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus, they together known as Malpighian corpuscle. Okay. Now the next, that is PCT. PCT means proximal convoluted tubule. This portion you can see only just after this. See the figure, PCT, first convoluted tubule or proximal convoluted tubule, that means just after the Bowman's capsule, means just after the Malpighian corpuscle, it starts the PCT. Okay, so it is the starting of convoluted region of the tubule, that means it's nearer to the proximal, means it is nearer to the Bowman's capsule. So both Bowman's capsule and convoluted means proximal convoluted tubule, they are present in the cortex region. Okay, so cortex region, that means it is the outer part. So as outer part of the kidney, that means this structure of kidney tubule or this thread like structure which we can see there, it starts from the outer cortex of the kidney. Means this Malpighian corpuscle and this proximal convoluted tubule, they just lies in the cortex part. Next one is middle U-shaped part, which is known as the loop of Henle. After PCT, you can see here one U-shaped structure, one hairpin like structure is there. So it is the loop of Henle. Okay, and it is the middle part. So it is not convoluted in nature. You can see it is just U-shaped structure, hairpin like structure. So it runs in the medullary part. So this Malpighian corpuscle and proximal convoluted tubule, they are in the, so they are actually in the medullary part. Okay, and sometimes they re-enter into the cortex, and again they re-enter into the medullum. Next is DCT, means distal convoluted tubule. Why it is distal? Because it is away from the Bowman's capsule. So it's this portion DCT, you can see this is the distal convoluted tubule, and after that this distal convoluted tubule, they opens into the collecting duct. Okay, this straight portion, that is actually the collecting duct. So collecting duct receives the content of many kidney tubules, means all of this part, and they pours it as urine into the pelvis of the kidney. And loop of Henle and the collecting duct lies in the medullary part. So for this they are giving this stripped appearance in the sectional view, which we can see in the renal pyramid. Okay, so Malpighian tubule, or sorry, Malpighian corpuscle and the proximal convoluted tubule, they are present in the cortex part of the kidney, and the loop of Henle and the distal convoluted tubule and this collecting duct, they are present in the medullary part of the kidney. Now blood supply to the kidney tubules, how they can get? the blood, because so they are having some renal arteries and renal veins. So a pair of renal arteries, they actually branch off from the dorsal aorta to enter to respective kidneys, means in each part of the kidneys. So each renal artery, the branches and again rebranches sometime to give rise some arterioles, because you know that the finest part of artery, that is the arterioles. So each arterioles enter into the Bowman's capsule in the name of afferent arteriole. Okay, afferent means which is bringing to, and the afferent arteriole breaks into a number of capillaries to form a knot-like structure. It's not like mass, that is actually the glomerulus, which is deeply fitted inside the, means the deeper portion of the Bowman's capsule. Okay, now the capillaries which are returning from the Bowman's capsule, that is the efferent arteriole. Okay, so in the glomerulus, the starting portion which is bringing the blood, that is the afferent arteriole, and the end portion which is means through which the blood will leave from there, so that is actually the efferent arteriole. Okay, so afferent arteriole and efferent arteriole. So the efferent arteriole, after emerging from Bowman's capsule, they runs a short distance and again they breaks up into second another capillary network which is surrounded by the renal tubule. Okay, and again after that they join with a vein. After that they joins with the vein. So here you can see this red portion, that is actually the part of the arteries, and this green blue portion, that is actually the part of the veins. Okay, so here you can see first the entry portion, that is the afferent arteriole. After that the leaving portion, that is efferent arteriole. Next it combines with the veins and rejoins here this blue portion, that is the part of the vein, that is another capillary network. Okay, so by uniting with the veins and the arteries, when they are uniting again and again in the kidney, it ultimately forms the renal vein. Means after the renal artery they unite and form the renal vein, which leaves the kidney at a median surface to pour the blood into the posterior vena cava. I think you have remembered the posterior vena cava, that is the down part of the this posterior vena cava, through which and which is attached with the right auricle and the right ventricle, means the right part of the heart. So they can receive the deoxygenated part or the waste part of the blood, means deoxygenated part of the blood. And all the body blood passes through the kidney 350 to 400 times a day at a rate of 1 to 2 liters per minute. Okay, so now we will study the function of the kidney, means how the urine will produce and different process of that. Okay, so now we'll study the function of kidney. Actually, you know what is the function of kidney, that is actually the production of urine. So the production of urine occurs in 3 major steps. So first is ultrafiltration, then reabsorption, and next that is tubular secretion. So first is ultrafiltration. So ultrafiltration occur in this figure. You can see this Bowman's capsule and the glomerulus. So this ultrafiltration, this particular process are situated in between the glomerulus and the Bowman's capsule. Okay, so you know that in glomerulus one afferent arteriole is there and another efferent arteriole is present there. So when the blood flows through the glomerulus with a great pressure, so it has actually means very much pressure is there compared to rest of the capillaries in other part of our body. So the reason for this great pressure, why, what is the reason? Actually the efferent means which is outgoing one, the efferent arteriole is narrower than the afferent one. Here from the diagram only you can see the afferent is quite broad in size, but which one is leaving, that is the efferent, that is quite narrower in size. So this creates a high pressure or a hydrostatic pressure, and which causes the plasma, that means the liquid part of the blood, okay, that means the liquid part of the blood, to filter out from the glomerulus into the renal tubule. That means it will from that renal tubule it will present in the renal, means in the Bowman's capsule, in that part. So that filtrate portion, or this process of filtration with this great hydrostatic pressure and with this force, is known as ultrafiltration. Okay, so during this ultrafiltration process, almost all the liquid part of the blood, means the liquid part of the blood means it is the plasma, and along with some organic and inorganic substances like glucose, urea, some ions and all, so they comes out from the glomerulus and pass into the funnel shaped cavity, or that is the Bowman's capsule, and the fluid which is present means the fluid which is formed after the ultrafiltration, that is known as glomerular filtrate. Okay, glomerular filtrate. This diagram, figure number 9.4, you need to practice, and also it is important for the diagram question. Okay, now which is the, so glomerular filtrate, it now consists of water, urea, glucose and some other solutes, and the thicker part of the blood, why it is thicker part of the blood, because almost most of the liquid portion, or most of the plasma part of the blood, it is already filtrate out in the, it is present in the glomerular filtrate. So now the thicker blood, it will left behind in the glomerulus after ultrafiltration. So thus the blood proceeding away from the glomerulus is relatively thick. Okay, so now is the reabsorption. So first ultrafiltration done, next is reabsorption. So now the glomerular filtrate is present in the renal tubule, which is not urine, means urine not formed. Now it is only the water and along with some means urea and ammonia and some proteins and ions. So, and it is extremely dilute solution. Okay, so it contains a lot of useful materials, including the sodium ion, glucose and some salts, and also so as it is passes down the tubule into to the proximal convoluted tubule and to the loop of Henle, so much of the water is reabsorbed. Okay, much of the water is reabsorbed with the useful substances. If some useful ions are there, so they also can be reabsorbed with the water, but the reabsorption is only to certain level or to certain extent. It not means ki whatever useful things are there, body can reabsorb all this. That is not. Some ions or some proteins or some water, means it also has a certain limit, so only to that extent they can absorb that particular thing. So for that it is known as selective absorption. Okay, now is the tubular secretion. So some substance like potassium ion and some foreign chemicals, means some antibiotics like penicillin and all. So when these chemicals, they are passed into the forming urine in the distal convoluted tubule, so this passage involves the activity of some cells of tubular wall, means in the distal convoluted tubular wall there are some cells which involves means when the potassium ion and all this, some chemicals some drugs and some chemicals, when they pass through that portion, they active some cells, which for that it is known as tubular secretion. Okay, and the filtrate left after reabsorption and tubular secretion is called urine, means at last urine formed. And now is how the urine will secrete. So final urine passes into the collecting duct into the pelvis. Okay, and from the pelvis they will transfer through the ureter and ultimately into the urinary bladder. Okay, because in the urinary bladder urine stored there. So by the ureter peristalsis movement and due to the gravity, they can store in the urinary bladder, and now urine is expelled from the urinary bladder through the urethra. okay, by the relaxation of one muscle, that is the sphincter muscle. Okay, so sphincter muscle is actually located into the opening of the urinary bladder. Okay, so when the sphincter muscle they are in its relaxed condition, then the urine remove from that particular from our means excretory organ. Okay, and so when the sphincter muscle they are in relaxed condition, um, the urethra under the impulse from the nervous system, so that impulse will come, the now the urine can secrete, so that impulse will come from the nervous system, and there is the release of urine, and that process is known as micturition. Okay. Okay, uh, now the physical properties of urine, the color, it is actually clear yellow, volume is 1 to 1.5 liter, pH almost 5 to 8, some kind of acidic in nature, and odor is there sometimes because as urea and ammonia is present there, and okay, and what is the constituents of urine which is present there, that urea, uric acid, creatinine, these are organic, and some inorganic salts like sodium chloride, potassium chloride, ammonia, so all these are present in urine. Now the abnormal constituents of urine, so we know generally in urine it is yellow in color and normally watery, means water is present there, but if any problem will occur in our body, then sometime it release high amount of glucose, sometime blood will come in urine, so all these are the some different problems. So first is blood cell, means when blood passes through the urine, so that particular malfunctioning or that particular deformation is known as hematuria. Okay, so this is generally occur in if any infection will present in the urinary tract or there is kidney stones. Now if there is excess amount of glucose in our urine, that is known as glucosauria, and you know that this disease is known as diabetes mellitus. Next, that albumin is a part of protein, so when there is means when if due to some bacterial infection, if albumin is present in our urine, then it forms albuminuria. And next is the bile pigment, due to anemia or hepatitis or during jaundice or means some problems in liver like liver cirrhosis, urine may contain the bile pigment. Bile is a yellow pigment, you know that, so sometimes it contains the bile pigment. Okay, now the regulation of urine output, so the pituitary gland and the pituitary gland and diuresis means increased production of urine, so the concentration of urine by this water reabsorption is controlled by one special enzyme, that is ADH, means antidiuretic hormone. Okay, ADH means antidiuretic hormone, so it is secreted from the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. Okay, so from posterior pituitary, which hormone secretes, it secretes ADH or antidiuretic hormone, which actually control the concentration of means the increased production of urine. Okay, so if ADH secretion is reduced, then what will happen, there is increased production of urine. If ADH secretion will reduce, then there is increased production of urine, and that is called the diuresis. If there is normal amount of ADH or less amount of ADH, then the urine production is normal. In normal ADH concentration, the urine production is also normal, so there is no problem. But if ADH secretion is reduced, then there is increased production of urine, that is known as diuresis, and substances that increase the formation of urine is called diuretics, like uh, liquid diets, tea, coffee, alcohol, etc. Next is gout and kidney stones. So uric acid is relatively less soluble in water, okay, and it sometimes forms some crystals, and it generally deposits into our bone joints, in joints. So you know that the older people, they generally having very much pain in their joints, in legs and hands and all. So why? Because there is the deposition of this uric acid crystals, and that forms the gout. And excessive uric acid and some salts like calcium oxalate, they may be the source of kidney stones, okay. So if kidney stones will form, then kidney cannot perform their function properly.